Yeah, wish us study. There's this amazing graffiti on both sides of where I'm sitting, but I can't get it in the shot, so we're just gonna have to deal with the balcony. It's not really a balcony. Look how tiny this thing is. It's like that big, whatever that is in centimeters. Anyway, I wanted to talk very, very briefly about some of the interference, the language interference that's happening already. I'm trying to get in a spot. There we go, where there's some sunlight on my face. Ha! Right. So, interference. My favorite so far. What's happening? I'm so jumpy. Okay, that'll work. What's happening is that when I'm trying to say something in Spanish, and I haven't revisited the language at all prior to coming here, so there's some things that are coming back to me, like La Cuenta for the check came back, although I didn't feel completely positive that it was correct, so I didn't actually say it. But I was also incredibly jet lagged. But there are some things that are happening where I'll remember part of a phrase, and instead of English coming in as the second part, Chinese is coming in, which is really curious because I only have maybe half a dozen functional phrases in Chinese. It's not really what I'm focusing on, as you know. I'm focusing much more on reading at this point, and eventually I'll get to the writing stuff, or to the speaking stuff someday. But right now I'm really, really focusing on the visualness and the meaning of the characters. So it's very confusing that Chinese is coming in and doing this. And so like an example of this, I'm trying to think, oh shoot, I had a really good example yesterday and I laughed so hard. Like some of the things I was saying, like numbers, okay, numbers I can do in Spanish pretty much. And thank you, and oh man, what the heck was it? It was like, oh, well, ni hao is coming out instead of hola, or actually instead of buenos dias, but they're just saying dias here. No, they're not. They're just saying buenas. When you walk into a place, you just say buenas. So that varies a little bit from place to place, but most of my Spanish comes from Latin America, so I really wasn't sure what was happening. So, but I started to do what I do when I need some functional languages. I started to listen to what people did when they walked in front of me, how they ordered, how they pointed, when they said things. Oh, Jiga, that's the one I wanted to share. Hold on one second, there's some traffic. Okay, so Jiga is of course this in Chinese, isn't it? I think. Jiga. That's actually in lesson 2. Where's that lesson 1 in the reading book? Anyway, there's also a video I did on awkward Chinese that you can see with Niga and Jiga, and I think that was in there. Anyway, I'm sort of rambling. What I wanted to say, what I was pointing to these beautiful, beautiful, like potato things yesterday in the panaderia, is that what it's called, the bakery? I was saying like dos, I have 2 under my belt, dos. So it's yo quiero, pro job. It's hard coming from English and wanting to always stick the subject in places. Okay, so quiero, I want, Spanish. I'm going to diagram this out. Quiero dos giga. I actually said the name of the thing, which was written there. So it was dos, and I don't remember the name, patata or something patata. So quiero dos patata giga. And I was pointing to it going this, because there were a few things with potatoes near it. So I wanted to make sure that, well, my pronunciation of the thing that I was reading was really awful, that she knew I wanted this. And, and Jiga came to mind, because esta, este, estas, it's not estas. That's a totally different word. Traffic. Anyway, those I never got completely comfortable using in Spanish. Go figure, because they're super common. Anyway, I think because pointing and showing numbers just worked really, really well, and I am inherently, or I was inherently, a lazy linguist. language learner? Yeah, let's put it past tense. So yeah, quiero dos patatas chica. And this kept happening. That's just one example, but it kept happening yesterday, where instead of English coming through, Chinese was coming through, which makes no sense. No sense. Yeah, so that was happening. I can't think of another example now, but next time it happens, I'm going to write it down. I want to share it with you. I think yesterday it became very, very clear that I'm okay with the level of Spanish I have for now. I don't want to actively even, other than like noticing things that, like when I noticed people were using just buenas when they were walking into a place, that's familiar, so that's not so much learning as it is just thinking, like making a note in my brain, that's used here, just do that when you walk into a place, that's easy. That doesn't take up a lot of brain power that I would normally use to study Chinese. So I think I'm not gonna like wholeheartedly actively study Spanish while I'm here. That's not really in the cards for me right now, and I am going to keep going with the Chinese. It's super easy to do, like 1 or 2 hours a day, like a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening. It's not hard. I read or listen to audiobooks or podcasts or things. I do kind of mentally scratchy stuff naturally anyway, even on vacation. So this will just be reading the reading book instead of doing that, or in addition to, because I have a lot of time in the day on vacation. So I don't foresee this as being as hard as I thought. I thought with the movement of traveling and stuff like that it would be hard, but we just flew in yesterday and I slept for 12 hours after doing a quick walk about the town, and I feel really good, which generally doesn't happen with travel. So if I can feel this energetic this early on in the vacation, we're not flying again until week 3. We're just doing trains and we're staying in places for like generally a week at a time. So I can totally get into a rhythm with the studying. I also, like, our internet today is really good, this week, these 3 days in Valencia, but if for some reason we hit a patch where the Wi-Fi isn't great, I figured out how to download the audio, so I can still work on it while getting the correct audio input down, while being offline, if that happens. So I feel like working with the book is a really good way to go during this vacation, and I don't think I'll intentionally spend like half the day doing it, but I think I can keep it up and progress as we're here, and hopefully get through lesson 2 and maybe lesson 3. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. It's more about remembering and understanding than it is about speeding through it. If I do 1 lesson a month but I really absorb the stuff, then that feels productive. Yeah, it'll take me 2 years to do the book, but I imagine at some point I would speed up. Hopefully. I don't want to spend years doing this one book, but again, I don't know. I'm reading in Chinese. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, yeah, so there's that. So there's all kinds of weird interference going on language-wise, which I thought would happen, but it's not happening quite exactly as I had thought, because I don't think I have a lot of functional Chinese in me. I point a lot when I'm in Shanghai, when I'm in China, not just even in Shanghai, less so in Shanghai, because I'll awkwardly switch over to English apologetically still, way too often. So I didn't think I had a lot of that with me, or in me, but I suppose I have more than I thought. The last thing that is weird, this is how I'll close out the video, is there's no Chinese around me. There was, funny enough, in the airport in Paris, they had three languages on most signs, and it was like, if I remember correctly, it was French, English, Chinese. I suppose that's how many Chinese tourists are going to Paris now, and I suppose they thought for Europeans that travel into Paris, they'll know either French or English, and the next biggest script difference would be Chinese. That negates a lot of different folks that might be traveling into Paris, which is clearly not a Spanish-speaking country. So it's interesting that those were the signs that were up, because there's a lot more scripts that are super different, but I suppose people from those scripts aren't as high in numbers as the other folks. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting that Mandarin was on, like the signs in the airport, the signs to the shuttle in the airport, the signs to even the bathroom in the airport and all this kind of stuff. And I did mean to take photos, but I was so zonked. So that was interesting, but that is the last time I saw Chinese. I will see some in Madrid, but I'll tell you about that later. But that's it. So everything around me, shock, is in Spanish. So Changing Scripts is the name of this series is in full force right now because I'm changing scripts yet again, to go back to Spanish. So it's interesting and it's weird because I can read stuff without looking for a sound component or without deciphering. There's a lot less bandwidth used to translate Spanish than there is to translate Chinese. I wouldn't even say translate, I'd say to understand what I'm reading. It's like when I'm reading Chinese, I'll stop. Like if I'm looking, I'll stop, look at the Hanzi, study the Hanzi, try to decompose it, try to look for the meaning component, the sound component, all of that. And I can spend, if I really wanted to, like half an hour on one set of characters, whereas in Spanish, I'll look at something and I'll either know it or I don't. I can say it immediately, even if it is pronounced wrong. And a lot of the stuff is, it's city stuff, so it repeats in vocabulary. So the panaderias, the bakery, and the pharmacia is the pharmacy, and so it's not that hard to decipher, so it's more like a 2-second look and read and keep walking. So I don't stop and stare at the characters so much. Now the graffiti in Valencia is intense, and I am stopping and staring at that. But the characters, they're not called characters, they're just words. The letters and words, very familiar, both in English and in Spanish, except for one. Is it one or two? Anyway, point being, there isn't a lot of stopping and staring at the language per se, but their architecture and the graffiti and hopefully today the beach, those are things to stare at. So it's interesting. It's interesting what you don't realize what you do until you stop doing it, right? I knew it was longer to walk to a place once I started studying the characters, but I didn't realize how much time I was spending staring at language. And the sick part is, I like doing that. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to go study yoga, meditate. And if it doesn't rain, beach it up. We had some pretty bad paella yesterday because we went to a beautiful plaza with lots of tourists. I didn't expect it to be great. Didn't expect it to taste like SpaghettiOs. So today I think we're going to venture out to a different area and try to find something else. I don't actively want to go to any place super intensely amazing. I just want to have something that's good, interesting, pretty, everything's pretty, so pretty. Anyway, all right, hey, more soon. 再见.